Top rules that you have to live by as a marketer spending a fuckload of money. There's a substantial difference, like what we talked about in one of my last videos with how to tell you have a shit marketer. There's also some ways that you have to think when you're spending a lot of money. It's a completely different game, right? Going from one league to the next requires you to adapt to your skill set. And outside of the things that you have to learn how to do, it's of the utmost importance to also master how to think at the higher levels of the game. This video in particular will be very beneficial for the business owners that have marketers in their staff that they want to turn around and train on how to successfully spend more money. This video will also be very helpful for the marketers themselves. Very excited to talk to you about this as a marketer that spends millions of dollars, low millions of dollars to be very transparent, very profitably every single month. I look forward to the opportunity to drop some bangers on you inside of this video. All of these lessons are centered around handing off the top tips, tricks, tactics, and ways to think on your path to hitting $1 million months. These are critical foundational lessons that you must implement. My name's Jeremy Haynes. For all those who are new to the channel, that's all we talk about around here. 40 different businesses so far and growing have hit $1 million months with my help, either at the helm of their marketing team, consulting them, or them being inside of my Inner Circle program. I'm very excited to hand down those top lessons. We don't make any income claims around here. We just reflect on what those businesses have successfully done, take them, put them into little bite-sized tidbits here on YouTube for you, and we drop them in these videos. So if you get some value out of this video, please consider subscribing. If you are already a subscriber, welcome back. It's a pleasure to have you. Let's get started. So, top rules to live by as a marketer that's spending an absolute fuckload of money. Number one, and this one I say extremely frequently, okay? I don't want to be right. I just want to make money, okay? This is very important to understand. A lot of marketers get attached to the ways that they think and they force their view and what they want to occur onto what they're doing. I am very quick to detach from the things that I am very tied to when something else is working better. I'll give you a great example. Just recently, Inner Circle member joins in. He says, hey guys, I'm having a lot of success right now with using Typeform and Schedule Once. As a matter of fact, I'm getting about a 30% cheaper cost per booked call, surprisingly, using that combo of software comparatively to using Typeform and Calendly. For all those who are returning viewers on this channel, you know that I absolutely fucking love Typeform and Calendly because typically it does exactly what that gentleman was saying he was having with another software combination. Typeform and Calendly historically for me, and still to this day, has done a tremendous job at lowering my cost per qualified booked call because they integrate together. It's been phenomenal as a software combination. I don't give a fuck about that specific set of softwares though. If something else comes along and does better, like the example of what that gentleman provided, I just ask him like, hey, when's the last time you tested a different software combination? How much spend did you test it with? And if it sounds like a reasonable set of data to make that conclusion to bias in his favor for what he chose to do rather than what I prefer to do, I don't give a fuck to be right. I just want to make the money, okay? It's very important to understand this happens all the time when you have a specific thing that you are pushing for in a business, whether it's a business that you operate in, a business that you own yourself, maybe a client relationship, whatever scenario it is. Like I have tons of content advertising strategies that we make money on so consistently. They work so frequently and they do so well. Yet, I'll give you a great example. Just recently, with one of my sales manager partners that we work with, a guy named Josh Troy from Wires from Strangers. If you're, again, new here, you might not know Josh, but he's one of the literal only sales agencies that exist that I actually enjoy working with and find consistent results. We do $1 million months again and again and again with one another. To be clear, Josh was saying, hey, when you first came onto this account and you implemented the Hammer Them strategy, with the short form content exclusively, it worked really well. Immediately, the salespeople noticed a difference. Everybody was showing up more qualified, more aware, asking better questions. They all seemed further along in the sales process. After a good 6 months, we started to notice that the problem was almost like representing itself. And we were obviously still doing everything with the Hammer Them strategy. Nothing changed, but the salesperson feedback changed. He was saying to me, look, it seems like people are showing up in the sales process too early again. What do you think we got to do to fix it? And rather than just saying, oh, well, we already fixed it. We already did this. We already accomplished this. We're not going to change anything. It's your fault, not our fault. We said, wonder what we can do. So what we did is we adapted the Hammer Them content advertising strategy to incorporate long form content as well, rather than just the short form content. The addition of the long form content, just pulling content from the person's YouTube channel, getting them to film some good value dense videos, pulling podcasts, pulling speaking gigs that this specific individual did that we were representing as a marketer, and putting them alongside of the short form content in the Hammer Them strategy. Bingo, immediately solved the problem again. There are so many marketers that we work with that take things that they know work on other accounts, roll it over to a specific account that they're new to or just working on, or just like the scenario I just articulated. They're already in the deal. It's already technically been a box that's checked for that problem solved and we've moved on. But when the problem represents itself, instead of looking at what they can do to fix it, they just point the finger, okay? And you don't want to do that. You don't want to be right, okay? You want to get the result. You want to make money. So when data presents itself that conclusively tells you, hey, your ROAS isn't as good as what it could be, fix it, okay? I'll give you a great example. We have a consulting client, incredible business, very high ticket service that these guys have. They have $10,000, $15,000, all the way up to $50,000 offers. They do a tremendous job. They had a show rate issue out of nowhere, okay? We implemented the Hammer Them campaigns. We implemented a very aggressive email marketing strategy. We updated some confirmation page videos that they had to incorporate some of our recent best practices. None of those really made an incremental difference for them. It didn't get a massive impact. Things improved, but it didn't improve as well as what we expected it. So we went into Google and we looked up the business name and the word Reddit. We also looked up the business name and the word reviews. We looked up the business name and the word scam, and we found some troubling things about the business, but nothing serious. This specific business had 2 different Reddit threads that had non-buyers that said, somebody asked, hey, has anybody done business with these people? It's this type of niche. Any kind of feedback would be very helpful. Let me know. And people who had not bought in the product. There were about 4 different people in particular on this first Reddit thread that had gone in and commented something along the lines of like, oh no, you can get that cheaper elsewhere. You can probably get that for free on YouTube, like comments like that. In addition to that, there was a third person who said, oh, I'd gone through their sales process and it seemed expensive, okay? And then there was a 4th person, honestly, a pretty like random comment, and almost didn't seem like it even like made sense within the context of the thread that was just talking in general about that industry as a whole. Second Reddit thread, okay? There was one person in particular out of a dozen or so comments, and it was the same general theme. Non-buyers, people who were just saying like, oh, you can probably get it cheaper elsewhere. Some people saying like, oh, that industry as a whole is a scam, like there's nobody that does good in that niche. Again, nobody that actually had bought. And then there was one person out of the 12 that had said, I was a customer of this business. I think it's a ripoff. And then there were 12 total responses. No, a little over 12, about 13 or 14 total responses, like replies to that one comment of people asking additional questions. And you had to click, if you're unfamiliar with Reddit, you had to click on that little button below the actual thread right there that says view more replies. And then in that, you also had to click again, because again, there was more than 10 different responses. So you had to click view more replies twice to end up seeing that the guy just thought it was too expensive. He actually openly says in that same comment within his own response thread that he thought the program was great and the results were great. He just thought he paid too much for it in comparison to what he otherwise wanted to pay. So even a person who just says, I think I bought this, it was a ripoff, later you have to really dig into it. And if you're unfamiliar with Reddit, like you have to really look. It's like a gray little hyperlink that you have to click that says view more replies. So anyway, my point is, this Reddit thread, these 2 sets of Reddit threads in particular, correlated exactly, like to the exact month that this company's show rate started tanking for things like their webinars and their call funnels. And, again, just their show rate started to correlate to going lower as this Reddit thread started to rank higher in the search engines. So what the point I'm trying to make is, okay, we deployed the Hammer Them sequence for short form and long form content. And again, if you're unfamiliar with that, if you're new to the channel, we have videos dedicated to that entire content marketing strategy. Just to summarize it, long story short, when somebody takes a specific action, like books a call, opts in for a webinar, does whatever, we immediately and aggressively get a lot of content in front of those people, both short form content and long form content, to help with the framing process, to warm the leads up more in an attempt to replicate the organic sales process via paid advertising. It works extremely well, but in this case, we didn't in any way, shape, or form address what was actually getting people to not show up, which were these Reddit threads, okay? The confirmation page videos that we updated, all these like common questions being addressed. They didn't address anything about these Reddit threads and the skepticism that was introduced into the market. There was actually an interesting document that you can look up, and this is real, by the way. This isn't like some random conspiracy I'm about to drop on you, where there was a leaked document from the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency here in the United States, that talked about how to sabotage an organization. And one of the key bullet points out of the many different ways to sabotage an organization from the inside out was introduce doubt and skepticism. It's all it takes sometimes, is you just have to introduce a little bit of doubt, and all of a sudden, bam, like wildfire, a show rate can go from 70 to 80% all the way down into the 40s. And the business, when leaving these things unaddressed, and potentially even being oblivious to it, right? And thinking, well, I'm implementing all the things that guys like Jeremy Haynes, like these really smart marketers are telling me to do, and they're still not necessarily making an impact. So what did we do? Immediately, we just said, well, let's address it. Let's make a confirmation page video that immediately after the person opts in for a webinar, that immediately after they book a call, right then and there, we start helping the person do their due diligence, okay? This is what keeps a marketer great, is not attempting to be right. Like, I already know that the strategies, like the hammer them strategy, short form, long form, I already know that confirmation page best practices work. I already know the proper best practices to email marketing in these different funnels to help with show rates. And when those things don't work, I don't just sit there and say, oh, must be your fault. You must be executing it wrong. No, we look at what's happening and we improve, we update, we attempt to do something new, which is exactly what we did in that example. And what we also found, by the way, was in that exact scenario of addressing Reddit threads, we found one of the most important things that we've recently uncovered. Reddit is currently viewed by consumers as a non-biased place to get real feedback from real people about the businesses that they're considering working with. And so what we ended up doing as a best practice across every single client, across every single inner circle member, where we do our twice a month one-on-one calls, weekly group calls, quarterly in-person masterminds, and have our group chat full of rich people trying to get richer. We did a weekly group call as an example just recently in the inner circle on this, where we talked at length with plenty of examples on what the best practices are relative to creating Reddit threads and giving customers an opportunity to go and talk within those Reddit threads about their experiences, and taking existing Reddit threads like in that business I just articulated to you in the example I provided, and sharing them with your customers, allowing real people who actually bought from you to share their experiences. And no exaggeration, damn near immediately, we saw the show rate improve back to a little bit less than where it was prior. For that specific business I articulated to you in the example, they were at high 70s. They got all the way back to low 70s with all those best practices in addition to just addressing what was on Reddit, okay? Point is, we learn new stuff as marketers when we're spending a fuckload of money and are willing to be wrong. Because when we're willing to be wrong, we can actually take all the data that's right there in front of us, telling us exactly what to do and how we need to go about doing it to get a result, right? Because that's what it's all about. And that's point number 2, okay? Results are what matter. This is very important to understand, and it might seem simple. You might be like, oh dude, that's a pretty surface level one, Jeremy. Results matter, of course fucking results matter. Yeah, well hang on, pay attention to this, okay? Because you might be one of these people breaking this golden rule. At high levels of spend, okay? One of the most interesting things that occurs, especially if you're dealing with somebody who's historically operated at smaller levels of managing money, is they typically pride themselves, it's like this employee mindset. They pride themselves on the time and effort that they invest into the outcomes that they produce. They're not solely basing their pride and their sense of accomplishment exclusively on outcomes and results. Quite the opposite, as a matter of fact, in almost all instances. You have somebody who is of the employee mindset that's now managing hundreds of thousands of dollars in a month in ad spend. The disconnect that occurs most frequently is they are extremely inefficient. So therefore they get fuck all done. They don't accomplish almost anything. And then businesses, here's the thing that happens when you spend a lot of money. Everything speeds up dramatically. Like, it is an intense difference. If you're driving 10 miles an hour, like I just got this new 911 Turbo S. It's fucking awesome, by the way. Arguably probably one of the greatest cars that exists. If I drive that thing in like normal mode and I'm driving in like traffic, versus if I'm on the causeway ripping over to the Brickell Key or back and I'm going $130 or something ridiculous like that, which is totally hypothetical, by the way. I would never actually drive that fast, just to be clear. Either way, long story short, if I were to, let's say, go that fast, how you drive the vehicle completely changes between 10 miles an hour in traffic and 100 miles an hour, okay? The vehicle response changes. Those German engineers know what the fuck they're doing. It's almost as if it becomes a completely completely different car. You and your body physiologically changes. Adrenaline starts coursing through you. All your decision making has to be rapid because the data that you're getting while you're driving that fast is coming in at an extremely fast pace. So therefore, if your decision making is at the same speed as though you're going 10 miles an hour in traffic, where you have plenty of time unless the person brake checks you in front of you to make decisions. Decisions are a lot slower at slower speeds. Decisions are incredibly faster at high speeds in order to not die at high speeds. This happens to marketers all the time. Due to the fact that they're used to going small and slow, and then all of a sudden things are big and fast, they stay stuck on this idea that grinds everything to a halt. Very little gets accomplished because they don't pride themselves on accomplishment. They don't pride themselves on outcomes. They exclusively pride themselves on time and effort. That's it. That's how they view themselves as like a hard day at work. You know, they come back home after a long day and they say, man, I did a whole fucking lot today. Versus that's why Elon, as an example, sends off an email every single week to the people that work for him and he says, what did you accomplish this week? He doesn't give a fuck how long it took. He cares about how much you accomplished and what you chose to accomplish. You see what I mean? It's a results-driven outcome. So to be clear, the money matters a lot. We had a consulting client recently that has a marketer that historically had managed the business when the business was doing fuck all money. They were making like 100K, 200K a month. They were living in different like Caribbean and fucking tropical regions on earth. Like there were the Bali entrepreneurs, you know what I mean, that are doing fuck all in a day, just hanging out and eating bananas with monkeys and shit like that in Costa Rica, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, bang, now they're doing $1 million a month and they got all the same people, same sales management, same operational staff, and more importantly in this context, the same marketer. Well, they expected the marketer to do a whole lot more than he ended up doing at $500,000 a month in spend while they're cranking up $1.5 to almost $2 million a month in revenue. The marketer ended up essentially just being a media buyer, okay? This is one of the worst things that you could end up doing, to be clear. It's like a sub point of what I'm attempting to make here, okay? Some of the worst like marketers that I know actively identify as media buyers. I think media buyer is one of the worst terms you could possibly use and identify with. Okay, it's like a derogatory term to serious people out there, just to be clear, in case you actively identify as one of those fuck all things. To be clear, media buyers do this. They get copy, they get ads sent to them, right? They get the images, they get the videos, and all they have to do is just sit there inside of the ads manager. They take no responsibility for like conversion rates on pages, funnels, marketing automation, getting involved in the sales teams. That's not what they want to do. They exclusively want to be handed all the assets, not be involved in the creation of those assets, and just literally put those things together inside of an ads manager and exclusively operate there. You want marketers, okay? You want people who are actually going to get in the trenches and actively identify bottlenecks that are fucked and push them forward, okay? This is one thing that I've noticed differentiates us and our agency over the years in comparison to a lot of the other people that are out there that are trying to make some serious money. If there's a bottleneck, we attack it aggressively, okay? This is important to understand, and I'll explain it a little bit here before I continue. So a bottleneck is very simple to understand. You have a clear idea of each step of your marketing and sales process and what each key statistic is that influences results the most. You actively want to have some KPIs for what range they should be within. And you also want to understand the implications, typically through financial modeling, for what those different statistics fluctuating can do for ROAS, total revenue out the other side, and just profitability, period, and the overall results you're going to be able to produce. Bottlenecks are very simple to understand. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you start with CPMs in the advertising process. That's a key statistic. If I go from a $40 CPM to an $80 CPM, I'm logically going to get half the traffic for the same dollars spent. Therefore, I'm probable to get half as many people to do whatever I'm optimizing my funnel for. And I'm probable to get half as many customers, yada, yada, half as much revenue total. Might be the same ROAS, might be half the ROAS. I then have click-through rate, link click-through rate, unique link click-through rate, okay? That statistic matters a whole lot. If I have, let's say, a 0.5% click-through rate, okay? And I can get that unique link click-through rate all the way up to just 1%. That right there alone, same exact dollars spent, doubles my traffic, doubles the quantity of people taking whatever the action is, doubles the quantity of buyers with the same dollars spent, doubles the ROAS, doubles the revenue. You see what I mean? Versus, again, all the other statistics and whatever the process is that follows, right? The opt-in rate, the conversion rate, the application rate, the book a call rate, the webinar show rate, the call funnel show rate, whether it's a 1 call close or a 2 call close, you know? First call show rate, second call booking booking rate, second call show rate, close rate, average order value, lifetime value, sales cycle timeline. Like all these are examples of statistics that we can map in a process when we're thinking with bottlenecks. And then what we want to do when we use bottleneck thinking is we want to play the doubles game, okay? This is one of the most high leverage things that we've found over the years, that when we think this way, and it's a simple way to think, but a lot of people omit this because they're typically doing things where they hyper focus on one specific thing. You don't want to be hyper focused on one specific thing until you recognized and identified it's the bottleneck. It's the easiest thing to double. Like I said with the click-through rate example, if I'll just throw some statistics out. Let's say I have a $20 CPM, which in nowadays CPMs is pretty fucking good, okay? Let's say I have a 0.5% click-through rate. Let's say I have a 50% opt-in rate on a webinar funnel. Let's say I have a 50% show rate to that webinar. Let's say that I have a 25% conversion rate on that webinar to people booking calls. Let's say I have a 75% show rate to the calls that people booked. And let's say that it's a one call close, okay? And then let's also say I have a 40% close rate. And let's say I have a $10,000 product and my AOV is $9,500. Out of each one of those statistics that I just mapped, I then want to take a game here. I want to look at it and say, out of all these statistics I'm aware of, which one is the easiest to double? In that particular case, I'm paying attention to the click-through rate. It's at 0.5%. A good benchmark to be aware of, and this is also important to understand when you play the doubles game, you have to be aware of the benchmarks for whatever funnel you're specifically running the traffic to, okay? Being oblivious to the benchmarks makes you have a dramatically higher probability to just take a random action rather than the calculated action that's gonna make the biggest difference. With a 0.5% click-through rate, getting that to 1% should be a fucking breeze, okay? Shouldn't be hard at all. And like I said before, that would double everything that follows in terms of the quantity of people that push through it, and it doubles the revenue and gets us a lot more top line. Doesn't necessarily do a whole lot other than that, but that's still extremely impactful when you're operating at scale and spending a whole lot of money. That's the point I'm attempting to make here. I want to be thinking with which one of these statistics is the easiest to double. And I want to think with bottlenecks in order to do that, okay? Be aware of the benchmarks, tie them into the funnels that you're running, pay hyper attention to whichever one needs the most attention, easiest to double, diffuse your attention again, pay attention to everything, bang. Okay, next one, when to press the gas. I had a client recently, they had a 25x ROAS. They just joined into my Inner Circle offer where they wanted to get some help. They do their first one-on-one call with me, because in the Inner Circle program, we do twice a month one-on-one calls. They're 30 minutes a piece, but we get a hell of a lot done on those calls. You can message me in real time, send me Loom videos, I'll review your stuff. You're paying me to care, and I assure you of this, I do care deeply about you making a lot of money when you go through that. I don't make specific income claims, but we understand the game and how it works. You want to spend money to be a part of it, and you want to make more money than what you spend, and we do that extremely well, to be clear. So anyway, we do those one-on-one calls in the Inner Circle offer, in addition to the weekly group calls, quarterly masterminds, and the group chat full of rich people trying to get a hell of a lot richer. Very active, by the way, not full of dumbasses like most of the masterminds or courses you've joined into in the past. This one's real and actually good. But I digress. We're on this one-on-one call, and he specifically starts showing me this 25x ROAS campaign that he's got going on. And he's like, dude, I just I went from about $1,000 a day to $3,000 a day, and my ROAS dropped from 25x to 17x. So I pulled back the spend. I pulled it back to $1,000, and my ROAS didn't go back up to 25x. So I lowered it again from $1,000 to $500. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, who cares? Spend more fucking money. Like, just because you're at a 25x ROAS and it goes down to 17 doesn't negate the fact that you're 17x profitable. Turn $1 into $17, and you tell me that the rightful decision you chose to make was to lower your spend from $1,000 to going up to $3,000 to back down to $1,000 and then sub $1,000 to $500. That ended up being the best decision to make in that example. It didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense at all. But I'm not exaggerating. Like, that's the kind of shit that I see, and it's not uncommon. It's extremely common. One of the things you have to understand about spending a ton of money versus, again, like when we talk about driving slow, going slow, it's like, guys, I've had people, they spend like $10,000 in a month. Let's use the same hypothetical. They get a 25x ROAS in this case, and no exaggeration, as soon as they go from 10,000 in spend to like 50,000 in spend, and their ROAS drops from 25x to like 15x, they'll do the same exact thing. They'll get caught up in tinkering, okay? You can A/B test your way into poverty. It's easy to do. Do exactly what those guys are doing. When you turn $1 into $17, just pull back the spend, because historically you turned $1 into $25. How the fuck's that make any sense? You know? You gotta learn when to press the gas. Surprisingly, this one is one of the most common things. One of the most common things that a marketer and or the business owner will think with when they're trying to make a fuckload of money and get into this mindset that the best thing to do is to hold the business back and try to like split test their way back to whatever the profitability was and then scale it up. And if and when they're scaling up and that ROAS starts to drop again, even at an extremely profitable level, they go back to scaling back down and tinkering again. It's one of the worst things you could do, man. You need people like me to come in and be on your ass about spending more money. And that's why we encourage you to check out the link in the description. Apply for the Inner Circle program if you're already doing low couple $100,000 a month. If you're already doing $1 million a month, ready to tack on the next $1 million, we help people like you too. We do a lot. We do a lot and we're very helpful. And we understand the game, like I said. We're trying to turn your money into more money every single month to keep a happy you. Okay, long story short, if you're not subscribed to the channel, do so now. Press that little subscribe button below. Turn on the little bell notification thing so you get alerted when these bangers drop. Go check out some of the other videos on my channel. They're all dedicated to taking the top lessons from $1 million a month businesses, turning them into these little bite-sized videos for you and handing them down in lessons just like this today. Don't make these same mistakes. Try to adapt and become the best marketer that you can be. Be fully committed to the game of personal development and do not make these same mistakes. They hold businesses back so much. There's a tremendous amount of additional lessons just like this inside of the programs that we offer for all of our paid members. We encourage you to step up and become one of those paid students or paid Inner Circle members of ours if you are not already. And if you already are, thank you so much. We appreciate you and we're very grateful for you. Again, if you're already a subscriber, thanks so much. Go check out some of my other videos and get richer. See you in another one.